this week I have Transformers: The Last Night. This movie is objectively bad. It is so bad. But something being bad doesn't mean it isn't enjoyable. Of note, it's hovering at around 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, while The Mummy is at 15%. And I have to say, I enjoyed this far more than I enjoyed The Mummy. So I don't think that's a fair comparison, because you know what you're getting into, right? It's a Transformers movie. There's not a lot of depth to it. It's going to be giant robots fighting robots. So this is the 5th film in the Transformers series.
God.
And as per usual, Michael Bay is back at the helm. And honestly, I didn't see the 4th, or if I did, I blocked it from memory because I don't remember. But I think dinosaurs show up in the 4th.
Oh, wow.
Robot dinosaurs.
Well, Mark Wahlberg showed up in the 4th.
Mark Wahlberg, yes.
That's when I was
That's
done.
the big transition, I believe, that happens in the 4th. I think in the 4th one is that Mark Wahlberg took the mantle from Shia LaBeouf.
Thank God.
Yes, exactly. Because as tough as he is to watch on screen, Shia LaBeouf was much, much, much worse.
Oh, I love Shia in the first one. I love Shia LaBeouf. I think he's a great actor.
I think he's terrible.
I'm with Arthur on this one, but we can agree to disagree in
Arthur
terms of this.
lost. What was the role?
Holes.
You remember Holes with Shia
You
LaBeouf?
did not.
Arthur lost
Yeah.
that role to Shia
I
LaBeouf
did
for
indeed.
real.
And he's living my life now.
That's insane. You
Yeah.
could have hung out with Sigourney Weaver.
I know.
That's
And I
upsetting.
love Sigourney Weaver
That's
too.
very upsetting. So for that alone, I will definitely hate on Shia LaBeouf.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm with Arthur on this one. But okay, so basically all you need to remember is Autobots versus Decepticons, right? Good and bad. Autobots are good, Decepticons are bad, and all the Transformers are now fugitives on Earth. So this is the point where you ask me, Dana, what does the last night part of this title mean? And let me tell you, this film starts out in an Arthurian legend. Like, it literally starts out with King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. Oh, yes. We start out in a medieval battle.
Didn't we already have a sucky King Arthur movie this year?
We did, and I could not decide which was worse coming out of this movie.
Okay.
But basically, the premise is Merlin received his power from a transformer in like the 1300s. Okay. And I'm just going to read you a line. One of my new favorite lines from all of cinema. Magic does exist. It was found in a crashed alien ship. That is a verbatim line that happens in this movie. So that should tell you everything. And this all happens within the first 10 minutes. I am not spoiling anything for you. So there's this whole convoluted plot where Mark Wahlberg is trying to save Transformers and then gets roped into this whole secret society thing where apparently people have been protecting Transformers since like Arthurian times. Yeah. And then I've noticed this weird trend in films where they try to put a scrappy preteen or teenage girl character in. Like in Logan, they had Daphne Keane in it, and I thought she was fantastic. So in this one, they try to shoehorn in this storyline with this young girl called Isabela with a Z, to which I say, no thank you. So she randomly meets Mark Wahlberg in like a scrapyard and then just kind of tags along. And it's one of those like annoying child along the storyline, like kind of messing things up. I found it kind of annoying, and I'm not blaming the kid. I'm definitely blaming Michael Bay.
Yeah.
So are you going to go to this movie and get way long, extended slow-mo fights with giant robots? Absolutely. Are you going to get a bizarro ancient European secret society plotline that also happens to involve Sir Anthony Hopkins? And I emphasize Sir because you're better than that, Sir Anthony Hopkins. You are better than that. And that's totally going to happen. Is there a sassy robot that's sort of in the style of C-3PO and K-2SO from Star Wars, who's a total ripoff of the two, and they even kind of acknowledge that? Absolutely. He's also played by Jim Carter, whose voice you might recognize as Mr. Carson from Downton Abbey. So that was very bizarre. He's literally like a human-shaped robot, and he just kind of runs around the whole time and is like a butler. It was super surreal, and I was like, does this movie want to be a Monty Python film, or does this movie want to be an action movie?
Right.
Because I don't think it knew. I didn't know as an audience member, so it was very confusing. And it was like 20 to 30 minutes too long. And honestly, did I still enjoy watching robots fight? Absolutely. I'm a sucker for it. I'm a sucker for when like a giant dinosaur robot pops out of the ground and attacks things. I'm a sucker for when like, Megatron slow-mo punches things. Like I'm all about that part of it. I just didn't need it to be as long as it was. So I'm only going to give it 1.6, but in light of that, I'm going to knock The Mummy down to 1 because this was better. This was better than The Mummy. It's not good, but it was better than The Mummy.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I like the retroactive.
It's like it puts in like puts things in perspective, right? Because at least like you know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah, there you go.
The Mummy, it was like, what are you trying to do here?
Well, there you go. Transformers 5. Don't waste your time. But this other movie looks like gross and scary, but sexy at the same time. Tell me a little bit about this next film you saw.
Well, I think you just described it pretty well. So it's The Bad Batch, and it's something completely different. It's from director and writer Ana Lily Amirpour, and her first film was the Iranian vampire spaghetti western. A Girl Walks Home
I
Alone
love
at
that
Night.
movie.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So it definitely has she has a following. So this is her second feature, and it stars Suki Waterhouse, Jason Momoa, Keanu Reeves, Giovanni Ribsi, Diego Luna, and Jim Carrey. So it's a pretty darn cool cast.
Is Jim Carrey scary in this?
No, I don't want to spoil it, but
Okay,
he is in a very unexpected role.
Is he the Cat in the Hat?
No, that was Mike Myers.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. The whatever he was,
Yeah.
the Grinch.
He was the Grinch. He was indeed
Okay.
the Grinch. So no, it's a very. I didn't know it was Jim Carrey until the credits rolled, and I had to look up who he played.
Wow.
So you wouldn't expect it to be Jim Carrey, but I thought he did a really good job in the role he was in. So it takes place in, I guess it could be the not too distant future, and it's basically like a desert wasteland populated by outcasts, and they don't go into too much about why these people are here or how this culture has sprung up. But all you know is that they're the Bad Batch. Basically, we start off with Suki Waterhouse gets carted off into the desert, and you just start there. And what we find out very quickly is that some of the people in this little wasteland are cannibals. Ooh. So if you are not great with things like butchery, bodies, and blood and things like that, you might have a tough time with this movie. I didn't know that going into it. I had a tough time with this movie.
Okay.
It's on par with 127 hours level of body dismemberment. It's not gratuitous and it's not overly gross, but it's definitely a form of violence that I think it's one of the few forms of violence that we are still sensitive to, right?
Yeah.
If somebody gets shot, we're like, oh, okay. If somebody gets run over by a car, we're like, oh, that sucks. But if you watch somebody have their arm chopped off, you feel something.
That sucks.
It does. But again, it's not gratuitous. It's not about cannibalism. It's just sort of an aspect of the society that they seem to be living in. So we follow Suki Waterhouse, and she plays Arlen, and then she meets all these characters along the way, and it kind of reminded me visually of what my understanding that Burning Man is, and it's also why I will never ever go to Burning Man. It's like a horrible Burning Man gone wrong.
Which disclaimer, probably Burning Man itself, probably nothing like this film. Right?
No, probably not. But in terms of desert, well, no, there are parts of it that are they have raves,
have a
and
DJ?
Keanu
Really?
Reeves plays a character called the Dream, who's this sort of cult leader, and
Oh
Diego
my
Luna is a
God.
DJ who rolls around in a giant boombox, a literal giant boombox that they bought from Burning Man. It was just such an interesting experience movie because it's got a plot unlike Transformers, but it's also a lot of it's about just sort of being in the moment and the experience of things, and there's not a lot of dialogue, which is something we're not really used to dealing with. Ana Lily Amirpour is hard of hearing. She has 70% of her hearing, so it's interesting to see that kind of translated onto screen in terms of soundscapes. So it was a very interesting experience. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. Full disclosure, it's also out. It's in theaters and it's on demand. It's one of those movies that's coming out both at the same time. But it's one of the few ones that I'm actually going to suggest you go see in a theater because I think you need that sort of immersive experience.
Sure.
I think you need you can't be distracted during it.
Yeah.
Because it's about having to sit through. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable at points. It's about having to sit through that instead of being able to fast forward or look at your phone or do something else. So I suggest you see it in theaters.
Doing that at home while drinking some delicious wine doesn't sound like a bad idea either.
Well, there are plenty of theaters that serve wine.
Yeah,
I'll say
or
that.
Just bring it. I mean, I just shove it in my pants and you just walk right in with it.
Arthur, we've discussed this.
I'm pro BYOB. Depending on the scenario. I think it's worth checking out, but I fully cop to it's not going to be for everyone. And I'm very excited to see what she does next because she definitely has very original ideas and a very unique sort of world building style. So it's very cool. I'm going to give it 3.2 out of 5.
Cool. Okay, well then I'll see it for sure.